Hi everyone. Sorry for my voice, but today I got cold, so sorry about that. First question for you guys and girls: how many of you is using AngularJS? Okay, quite many of you. Good to know. So let's start. My name is Karol Fabjan. I'm from front-end developer from Szczecin, and as a side note, I will tell that this presentation is available on GitHub, and it's done mainly in AngularJS. So, brief introduction. This presentation is about our experience. We create a sales application for Polish mobile network operator, and previous version of this app was created 5 years ago, and it was just set of multiple wizards, and problem with that was its synchronicity. So for example, you went to the store just to check an offer or phone price, and even so you had to go through a few unnecessary steps, reveal your personal information, do credit check. It wasn't user-friendly. A new app was reinvented, built from scratch. We separated backend and frontend through REST API. We chose AngularJS because of its modularity, big community, and great testing. One thing that convinced us, besides that things, were also words of Steve Sanderson. He said that writing in AngularJS now is like he feels like he's writing. He will be writing the same in few years. So our journey began. At first, we encountered few problems. First, how to structure an app. Official guide wasn't helpful. There were some demos, but it wasn't helpful for big app. We know that this is a long run. We wanted to make it good, and we chose ng boilerplate, and it was a really good choice. Why? ng boilerplate show us nice tools like Grunt, Bower, and Karma Runner, HTML to JS, which compile HTML particles into AngularJS template cache, and many others. Also, one nice thing about ng boilerplate is that its folder structure is business-oriented, not widespread file structures based on file type. Okay, next problem we encountered was that on some slower browsers, we know what browser that is, we had some uncompiled expressions showed briefly in its raw form. There are few workarounds like ngbind and ngcloak. There was also a problem if you work with AngularJS. I think you encountered this. Sometimes Angular is not aware that scope needs to be updated. It happens when you use something from Angular outside world. So, for example, pure Ajax call or set timeout, like in this example on the slide. Solution for that is use scope apply, or I recommend using scope digest. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between scope apply and scope digest? Basically, scope apply runs raw scope digest. So scope digest runs on current scope. That's it. Let's move further. Okay, when you try to minify AngularJS files, you'll quickly find out that it's not working. Why it's not working? Because AngularJS finds its dependency injected modules by its name, not by order as we are used to. I highly recommend automatic solution ng annotate. And after first phase of developing that app, what we have learned? We have learned that two-way data binding is really good. Advanced scenarios, implementation of advanced scenarios were pretty easy. For example, in our application, we estimate some pretty advanced function feature for 10 days, and we did it in 3 days with less code. So it was pretty big win for us. In AngularJS, initially, everything is fun, easy. Two-way data binding is really nice. However, quickly, things like scope, compile, digest phase comes in, and learning curve starts to get like in this image. AngularJS documentation might be better. It's constantly improving. However, I usually have to find answers on Stack Overflow or on Google. And also, controversial thing, declarative markup. We have initial concerns about this, about similarity of ng-click versus on-click. When we use jQuery, it's considered a bad practice to use JavaScript code inside HTML. I completely agree with that. However, Angular HTML is not regular document. It responds to user input and some model changes. So it's not the same. Also, AngularJS directives are not global. They are bound to scope. And one big advantage of this is that when my teammate do something, I can just take a look at HTML and immediately see what's going on. And it's still, for me, it's still much better than mustache or handlebars templates. And we made many wrong turns. For example, we mixed logic. We used directives for views and so on, but we had to make this app work. We had to learn how to use AngularJS core components properly. So, for example, controllers should be used with a minimal amount of logic and completely without DOM operations because it's due to stability. Services are used for actions that are not connected to a particular view, and if you want to share something between controllers, you use services for that. And it's a great place for collecting REST data. And directives are meant to be used as reusable components. So, for example, ng-repeat is much better than user repeat. Latter is not so universal, and there's some business logic in it. Okay. After first phase of developing, after some experiments and so on, we went to the second one, and problems we met were lack of lazy loading. AngularJS doesn't work with require.js out of the box. There are some hacks. It's also on AngularJS 2.0 roadmap. However, it's not working out of the box. However, it wasn't a stopper for us because I will give example of our application. After 4 months of developing, We've added the jQuery, many plugins, all HTML templates compiled into template cache. Our app weighs around 1.3 megabyte, so it's pretty okay. And watch out for watches. So watches are a good thing. You can easily observe what's changing. However, if you overuse it, your code is less readable and it might be hard for debugging. This is a sneaky topic. This is not AngularJS problem. This is a general single-page application problem. Do you know what is the most common memory leak pattern in JavaScript? Yes and no. The most common problem, not everyone knows, is console log. If you console log something, garbage collector wants to remove function and it can't because there's a reference to it in console log. So, as I said, this is sneaky subject, and there are many places where you can make mistakes. In Angular app, our Angular app, what we made is unbind events on scope destroy. It helps a bit. And there's a great Adios Money presentation on topic. This presentation was added on JS News group on Facebook. Okay. So performance is also a controversial thing about Angular. If you want to show many things at once on view, Angular behind your view adds watches for every expression you add to the view. And on slower browsers, after 2000 watches, things start to slow down. What we did was just not don't show everything at once. So we had hundreds of phones, hundreds of offers. So we include pagination. If you want to live update, if you don't want to live update your data on the view, use one-time bindings that were introduced in Angular 1.3. Also filters. Filters are twicely evaluated in each digest cycle. So if you use resource-hungry filters, it might be bad for your app. And good news is that not only Angular, but other frameworks too will benefit from Object Observe, which will be introduced in ECMAScript 7, and performance will be much better. And nice to know about directives is that there are two phases, compile phase and link phase, and sorry, the difference between them is that compile phase runs only once, and link phase, if you write something in link phase and put that directive into ngRepeat, link phase will run in every loop. So if there is something resource hungry and don't use scope, use it in compile phase. What have we learned after second phase of developing our application? The promises. This is a really powerful concept. It helped us a lot with managing callback hell. It's hard to understand. However, it's really good. We use it not only for Ajax calls, but also for interframe communication. And of course, one of the biggest benefits of AngularJS is its testability. You can make a unit test, end-to-end test, all due to its modularity, dependency injections, strict DOM operation only in directives. So, in summary, HTML views are the end result, not like in jQuery. In jQuery, you had a view, HTML view, and start making some work. In AngularJS, HTML view is the end. So you make some work, and then HTML view appears. AngularJS help us write less amount of code. It's easily testable, and use Todmoto guide or ng boilerplate or any other boilerplate, even Yeoman generator, just to make sure that if your app grows, you'll be prepared. And even AngularJS founders admit that this framework is not good for everything. It's not good for games. It's not good for static pages. So use it for most of the internet pages that are based on forms. And after this presentation, remember that if you think framework will solve all your problems, you're gonna have a bad time. Thank you. Okay, do you have any questions?
Hello, okay. You've mentioned memory leaks. Can you tell us what was your approach to detect those in your application?
Firstly, I have to admit that we didn't solve this problem in 100%. There are still memory leaks. What we did was we changed all libraries we had. For example, router libraries. So we used ngrouter, we used UI router just to check if there is some problem between route changing in the libraries. We, of course, used profiler and try to figure out something from that, but it's really hard and it's not easy. We have also, as I said, tried to unbind all we can from DOM on scope destroy events. However, it was reducing memory leaks in our application was hard because we were part of the app. We were inside the frame, and upper frame was a different app that, for example, put some events if user clicked in our app, they attach events to our app. So even they may cause some memory leaks.
Yeah, I know it was just an example, but you told us to use scope apply inside the set timeout because set timeout is operating outside the digest cycle. But it's a common back practice to use the native set timeout because we have a timeout service which is using scope apply inside. And yeah, just want to mention it's a common mistake.
Absolutely true. I completely agree. I didn't mention it, but there are counterparts, AngularJS counterparts of native functions. So there's $timeout for set timeout and so on, HTTP for Ajax calls. So you don't have to use that vanilla.js parts of language.
Hi, you mentioned in one of your slides, you tried to use directives as views. And did I get that right, that you found it a mistake?
Yes, because at first we use just ngRouter, and ngRouter don't allow for nested views. And we use directive to have that behavior, and it was bad because directives which are meant to be reusable were big, massive, and completely not reusable. And I think that it is a mistake.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's not at all serious, but what happens if you die in this presentation?
Once again?
What happens if you die in this presentation?
I cheated, and you can't die. Thank you.